My dear wonderful friends, tonight I shall share with you the most powerful secret in all of creation. How to speak to yourself in a way that will completely transform your world in just 3 days. Not in 3 months, not in 3 years, but in 3 days. For you see, the power of your inner conversation is absolute. And it is the only true creative power in the universe. Now, when I tell you to talk to yourself, I am not speaking of the idle chatter that most engage in throughout their day. I speak of that inner conversation that is deliberate, conscious, and aligned with your desired state. For your inner conversation is your consciousness externalized, and your consciousness is God. Consider the words of Scripture. In the beginning was the Word. These words are not speaking of some external deity's utterance. They speak of your inner word, your inner conversation. For you are the operant power, and your inner conversation is the word that creates all things. Many of you come to me asking, Neville, how long must I wait to see my desires manifest? And I tell you now, give yourself 3 days of proper inner conversation, and you will see your world begin to transform. For 3 is the number of completion in Scripture. And when you maintain the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you set in motion forces beyond your current understanding. Let me share with you exactly how to conduct this inner conversation. First, you must understand that your inner conversation must be from the end. You do not speak of what you want to be true. You speak as though what you desire is already true. This is the great secret that most of the world has missed. When you wake in the morning of your first day, your inner conversation must be from the state of your wish fulfilled. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation must be that of a wealthy person. If you desire health, your inner conversation must be that of a healthy person. If you desire love, your inner conversation must be that of someone who is deeply loved. But, and this is crucial, your inner conversation must feel natural. It must not be strained or forced. For feeling is the secret, and your inner conversation must be accompanied by the feeling of naturalness. Let me give you a perfect example from Scripture. When David spoke to Goliath, his inner conversation was not, I hope I can win, or I will try my best. His inner conversation was from the state of victory already achieved. This is why he could say with complete conviction, this day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand. Now, for these 3 days, you must guard your inner conversation as though your life depends upon it, because it does. Every time you catch yourself engaging in inner conversation that contradicts your desired state, you must immediately revise it. This is not a suggestion. This is a command if you wish to see your world transform. Consider this: every outer conversation you have is first an inner conversation. Every relationship you have is first an inner conversation. Every circumstance in your life is first an inner conversation. Therefore, by changing your inner conversation for just 3 days, you literally change the entire substance from which your world is created. Let me tell you how to structure your inner conversation throughout these 3 days. In the morning, your first inner words must be from the state of your wish fulfilled. Before you open your eyes, before you move a muscle, engage in the inner conversation of the person you wish to be. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my abundant life. Money flows to me easily and continuously. I am surrounded by prosperity. But remember, these words must not be mere affirmations. They must be spoken with the feeling of knowing that they are already true. Throughout your day, your inner conversation must maintain the same level of conviction. When challenges arise, and they will arise, your inner conversation must remain steadfast. If someone speaks of lack, your inner conversation must be of abundance. If someone speaks of illness, your inner conversation must be of health. This is where most fail in their attempt to change their world. They allow their inner conversation to be pulled into the current circumstances rather than maintaining the conversation of their desired state. But I tell you now, circumstances have no power over your inner conversation unless you give them that power. For these 3 days, you must be relentless in maintaining your new inner conversation. When you walk down the street, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. When you eat your meals, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. When you prepare for sleep, your inner conversation must be from your desired state. Let me share with you a principle that I have tested and proven countless times. Your inner conversation is the only reality. Everything else, absolutely everything, is a shadow of your inner conversation pushed out. Therefore, when you maintain the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you literally create a new world. Many of you may be thinking, but Neville, 3 days seems too short a time to change my entire world. Let me remind you of the story of Jonah. How long was he in the belly of the whale? 3 days. And after 3 days, he was transformed, and his world was transformed. This is not coincidence, my dear friends. This is law. 3 days of proper inner conversation is all that is required to set in motion the forces that will transform your world. But these must be 3 complete days, not 3 days of wavering between states. During these 3 days, you must guard your inner conversation not just in your waking hours, but as you fall asleep. For the last inner conversation you have before sleep is particularly powerful. It continues to echo through your subconscious mind throughout your sleep. Therefore, as you prepare for sleep during these 3 days, your inner conversation must be perfectly aligned with your desired state. If you desire a successful business, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my thriving business. My customers are delighted with our services. Profits increase continuously. But remember, and this is crucial, your inner conversation must be accompanied by the feeling of naturalness. It must feel as natural to have this conversation as it feels to speak of what you had for breakfast. This is where the power lies, not in the words themselves, but in the feeling of naturalness that accompanies them. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your outer conversations. Therefore, during these 3 days, you must be particularly vigilant about your outer conversations as well. They must align with your new inner conversation. If someone asks you how you are, your response must come from your desired state. If someone speaks to you about problems or difficulties, your response must come from your desired state. Your outer conversation must be a perfect reflection of your new inner conversation. Many of you may find this challenging at first. You may be tempted to engage in conversations about current circumstances rather than your desired state. But I tell you now, this is where your power lies, in maintaining your new conversation regardless of appearances. Consider the story of Jesus walking on water. What was his inner conversation? Was it about the impossibility of walking on water? Was it about the danger of the storms? No, his inner conversation was from the state of mastery over all natural laws, and his outer world had to conform to this inner conversation. During these 3 days, you must maintain the same level of conviction in your inner conversation. You must speak to yourself as though your desired state is already your reality, not as though it will be, not as though it might be, but as though it is. Let me share with you how to handle doubts when they arise during these 3 days, and they will arise. When a doubt appears in your mind, do not fight it. Instead, immediately revise your inner conversation. If you catch yourself saying inwardly, this isn't working, immediately revise it to, everything is working perfectly. My world is transforming now. This revision must be immediate and complete. You cannot allow doubt to linger in your inner conversation. For remember, your inner conversation is the only reality. Therefore, a doubting inner conversation will create a doubting outer reality. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be dominated by gratitude. Not gratitude for what you hope will come, but gratitude for what is already yours in your desired state. This gratitude must be part of your inner conversation throughout the day. When you wake in the morning, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. When you go about your daily activities, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. When you prepare for sleep, your inner conversation must be filled with gratitude. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your inner states, and your inner states create your outer world. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of your wish fulfilled. If you desire wealth, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of wealth consciousness. If you desire health, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of health consciousness. If you desire love, your inner conversation must create and maintain the inner state of being loved. Many of you may be wondering what to do if you slip in your inner conversation during these 3 days. Let me be very clear, you must not condemn yourself. Instead, immediately revise the conversation. Remember, you are training yourself to maintain a new inner conversation, and like any training, it requires practice. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your primary focus. Every other activity must be secondary to maintaining your new inner conversation, for you are literally recreating your world through this conversation. Let me share with you how to structure your inner conversation for specific desires. If you desire a new home, your inner conversation might be, I love living in my beautiful new home. Everything about it is perfect for me. If you desire a promotion, your inner conversation might be, I am so grateful for my new position. It's everything I desired and more. But remember, these are not mere words. They must be accompanied by the feeling of living in that new home, the feeling of working in that new position. For feeling is the secret. And your inner conversation must generate the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be specific. Vague inner conversation creates vague results. Therefore, speak to yourself with clarity about your desired state. Be specific in your inner conversation about what you are grateful for, what you are experiencing, what you are enjoying in your desired state. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your self-concept, and your self-concept creates your world. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about who you are, not just what you have. If you desire success, your inner conversation must be about being a successful person, not just about having success. If you desire abundance, your inner conversation must be about being an abundant person, not just about having money. If you desire love, your inner conversation must be about being a loved person, not just about having a relationship. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be continuous, not in the sense of constant chatter, but in the sense of consistent alignment with your desired state. Every time you become aware of your inner conversation, it must be from your desired state. Let me share with you how to maintain this continuity. Set reminders for yourself throughout the day. Every time you look at your watch, every time you eat a meal, every time you enter a room, let these be triggers to check your inner conversation. But remember, your inner conversation must not be mechanical. It must be alive with feeling, rich with the emotion of your desired state, for it is the feeling that gives power to your inner conversation. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be sovereign. You must not allow anyone or anything to dictate your inner conversation. Not circumstances, not other people's opinions, not past experiences. Nothing must have power over your inner conversation except you. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your expectations, and your expectations create your experience. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must create the highest expectations of good for yourself. Many of you may be thinking, but Neville, what if my desired state seems impossible? Let me remind you, nothing is impossible to your inner conversation. Your inner conversation is God in action, and to God all things are possible. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about possibility, not probability. You must speak to yourself from the state of your wish fulfilled, regardless of how probable or improbable may seem to your rational mind. Let me share with you how to handle apparent failures during these 3 days. If something happens that seems to contradict your desired state, your inner conversation must remain unchanged. You must speak to yourself as though the seeming failure is actually part of the perfect unfolding of your desire. Remember, your inner conversation is creating your reality, not the other way around. Therefore, no external circumstance has the power to change your inner conversation unless you give it that power. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your constant companion. It must be the lens through which you view every experience, the filter through which you interpret every event, the standard by which you measure every circumstance. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your belief system, and your belief system creates your reality. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must consistently reinforce the beliefs that support your desired state. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be a perfect reflection of the person you wish to be. You must speak to yourself as that person would speak, think as that person would think, feel as that person would feel. Let me share with you how to maintain this level of consciousness. When you catch yourself speaking from your old state, immediately ask yourself, how would I be speaking to myself if I were already the person I wish to be? Then revise your inner conversation accordingly. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be about what is, not what was or what might be. You must speak to yourself in the present tense, from the state of your wish fulfilled. This is crucial for the manifestation of your desire. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your future, but it does so by creating your present. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must make your desired future your present reality. Many of you may be wondering what will happen after these 3 days. Let me tell you, if you have maintained the proper inner conversation for 3 days, you will have set in motion forces that must result in the manifestation of your desire. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your primary tool for creation. Every other method, every other technique, every other approach must be secondary to maintaining your new inner conversation. Let me share with you how to know if your inner conversation is correct. If it feels natural, if it feels real, if it feels true, even in the face of contrary evidence, then your inner conversation is correct. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be protected like a precious jewel. You must guard it against doubt, against fear, against negativity. For your inner conversation is the very substance from which your world is created. Let me share with you another principle. Your inner conversation creates your relationship with yourself, and your relationship with yourself creates all other relationships. Therefore, during these 3 days, your inner conversation must reflect the highest, most loving relationship with yourself. During these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your sacred practice. You must treat it with the same reverence that a priest treats his prayers, that a scientist treats his experiments, that an artist treats his creations. Let me share with you how to maintain this level of devotion. See your inner conversation as your direct connection to the creative power of the universe. For that is exactly what it is. Your consciousness in action, creating your world. Throughout these 3 days, your inner conversation must be your constant reminder of who you really are, the operant power in your world, the creator of reality, the God of your universe. And that, my dear friends, is how you must talk to yourself for 3 days if you wish to transform your world. Not sometimes, not occasionally, but consistently, continuously, constantly. For your inner conversation is the word of God in action, and it cannot return void. Remember this, your world is your inner conversation pushed out. Therefore, guard your inner conversation for these 3 days, as though your life depends upon it, because it does. So what will you do with this knowledge? Will you continue with your old inner conversation, creating the same results you've always created? Or will you begin today, this moment, to maintain a new inner conversation that must create a new world? The choice is yours, but the law is absolute. Your inner conversation creates your reality. Therefore, speak to yourself for 3 days as though your desires are already fulfilled, and watch your world transform. That's the message I want to leave you tonight. Not because it's easy, but because it's true. Not because it's simple, but because it's powerful. Not because it's what you expected to hear, but because it's what you needed to hear. Remember, 3 days of proper inner conversation will transform your world. Every single time. And isn't that worth thinking about? I speak to you about the divine power of living alone, the magnificent state of being complete within yourself. Now you may think this contradicts what society has taught you about relationships and marriage, but I tell you with complete conviction, living alone is one of the highest states a being can achieve. Let me be perfectly clear. When I speak of living alone, I am not speaking of mere physical solitude. I speak of that glorious state of consciousness where you recognize that you are complete, whole, and perfect exactly as you are. For you see, the world has sold you a lie, a magnificent deception that you need another to be complete. But I tell you now, you are already complete, for you contain within yourself all the powers of God. Consider the first words in Scripture about man. Let us make man in our image. Notice it doesn't say, let us make man and then give him someone else to make him complete. No, man was created complete, whole, perfect, in the image of God. This is your natural state, your divine inheritance. Many of you come to me speaking of loneliness, of emptiness, of the need for partnership. But I tell you now, these feelings arise not from being alone, but from not recognizing your own completeness. You are seeking outside yourself what can only be found within. The kingdom of heaven is within you, not in another person. Let me share with you a principle that I have tested and proven countless times. The state of living alone, when properly understood and embraced, is the most powerful state of consciousness you can occupy. For in this state you are not divided. Your energy is not scattered. Your focus is not diluted. You are one with yourself, one with God. Consider this. When you are in a relationship, where does your focus go? It goes to the other person, their needs, their wants, their moods, their expectations. But when you live alone, properly understanding this state, your focus remains on the only creative power in existence, your own wonderful human imagination. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Neville, isn't this selfish? Aren't we meant to share our lives with others? Let me be very clear, there is no other. What you see as others are aspects of yourself pushed out. Therefore, when you focus on your own completeness, you are actually expressing the highest form of love, the recognition of the divine in yourself. I think about the great mystics and prophets throughout history. Did they not often retreat into solitude? Did they not find their greatest revelations when alone? This was not by accident, my dear friends. They understood this principle that I share with you tonight, that in solitude we find our true power. Let me explain this further. When you live alone, properly understanding this state, you are not running from relationships. You are not hiding from love. Instead, you are claiming your divine birthright of completeness. You are saying to the universe, I am complete. I am whole. I am sufficient unto myself. Consider the words of Scripture. Be still and know that I am God. Notice it doesn't say, be still and know that we are God, or be still and find someone else to make you God. No, it speaks of that individual recognition of your own divine nature. This recognition comes most powerfully in solitude. Many of you spend your days seeking completion in relationships, seeking happiness in partnerships, seeking fulfillment in romantic connections. But I tell you now, this is like seeking water in a desert mirage. The water you seek is within you. The love you seek is within you. The completion you seek is within you. Let me share with you a profound truth that most of the world has missed. When you truly embrace living alone, you experience a freedom that no relationship can provide. This is not the freedom to do whatever you want, though that certainly comes with it. This is the freedom to be whoever you truly are, without the distortions and compromises that relationships often demand. Think about it. In a relationship, how much of yourself do you compromise? How many of your dreams do you modify? How many of your desires do you suppress? But when you live alone, embracing the state fully, you are free to be exactly who you are, to pursue exactly what you desire, to live exactly as you choose. This is not about being selfish or uncaring. Rather, it is about being true to your divine nature. For how can you truly love others if you are not first true to yourself? How can you give freely if you are constantly compromising your own truth? Let me share with you another principle that I have tested and proven. The state of living alone, when properly understood, is the most powerful manifestation state you can occupy. For in this state, your imagination is not cluttered with the thoughts, beliefs, and limitations of others. Your creative power flows purely and directly. Consider this when you are in a relationship. How often do you modify your imaginal acts based on what your partner might think or want? How often do you limit your dreams to accommodate their reality? But when you live alone, your imagination is free to soar to whatever heights it chooses. Many of you fear living alone because you have been taught that it means being lonely. But I tell you now, loneliness is a state of consciousness, not a circumstance. You can be surrounded by people and feel intensely lonely, or you can be completely alone and feel deeply connected to all of life.
The secret is this: when you truly embrace living alone, you discover that you are never truly alone. For you are one with God, one with all of creation. This is not a philosophical concept. This is a living reality that you can experience when you properly understand and embrace solitude.
Think of it this way: every great invention, every magnificent work of art, every profound spiritual revelation, these not come from individuals who were willing to be alone with their thoughts, alone with their imagination, alone with their God. This is not coincidence, my dear friends. This is law. Let me share with you another truth that many find difficult to accept. Relationships often serve as distractions from your true purpose. They can become comfortable hiding places where you never have to face yourself, never have to grow, never have to become who you truly are. But when you live alone, properly understanding this state, you have no choice but to face yourself. You have no choice but to grow. You have no choice but to become who you truly are. This is why many fear solitude, because it forces them to confront their own divine nature. Consider the story of Jesus going into the wilderness for 40 days. This was not a punishment. This was not a hardship. This was a necessary step in claiming his divine nature. The wilderness, the solitude, was not an obstacle to overcome. It was the very means of his transformation. Many of you have been taught that relationships are the path to growth, to learning, to becoming better people. But I tell you now, while relationships can certainly teach us things, the deepest growth, the most profound learning, the most complete transformation always happens in solitude. Think about it: when you are constantly in relationship, constantly adjusting to another's presence, constantly accommodating another's reality, how can you truly know yourself? How can you truly hear your own inner voice? How can you truly follow your own divine guidance? Let me share with you another principle that I have tested and proven. The state of living alone, when properly understood, is the most powerful healing state you can occupy. For in this state, you are not taking on the energies, the emotions, the problems of others. You are free to focus entirely on your own healing, your own growth, your own transformation. Consider this: when you are in a relationship, how much of your energy goes to managing the other person's moods? How much of your time is spent dealing with their issues? How much of your attention is diverted from your own healing journey? But when you live alone, all of that energy, all of that time, all of that attention can be focused on your own growth and healing. Many of you fear living alone because you have been taught that we need others to heal, to grow, to become whole. But I tell you now, while others can certainly support our healing journey, the deepest healing always happens in solitude, in that sacred space where it's just you and God. Think of it this way: when you break a bone, yes, doctors can set it, friends can support you, but the actual healing happens within your own body. No one else can do that healing for you. In the same way, your deepest emotional and spiritual healing can only happen within you, in the silence of your own being. Let me share with you another truth that society often tries to deny. Relationships often create more problems than they solve. They often bring more complexity than clarity, more confusion than certainty, more distraction than direction. But when you live alone, properly understanding this state, life becomes remarkably simple. Your decisions are your own. Your time is your own. Your energy is your own. The simplicity is not a limitation, it is a profound freedom that allows you to focus entirely on your divine purpose. Consider the great spiritual teachers throughout history. Yes, they interacted with others, they taught others, they loved others, but their power, their clarity, their connection to divine truth came from their willingness to be alone, to be complete within themselves. Many of you spend your lives seeking the perfect relationship, the perfect partner, the perfect connection. But I tell you now, what you are really seeking is your own perfection, your own completeness, your own divine nature. And this can only be found within yourself. Think about it. How many relationships have you entered hoping they would make you happy, make you complete, make you whole? And how many times has this strategy failed? This is because you are seeking outside yourself what can only be found within. Let me share with you another principle that I have tested and proven. The state of living alone, when properly understood, is the most powerful creative state you can occupy. For in this state, your creative energy is not divided, not compromised, not diluted by the needs and demands of relationship. Consider this. When you are in a relationship, how much of your creative energy goes into maintaining the relationship itself? How much of your creative power is spent on managing the dynamics, handling the conflicts, navigating the compromises? But when you live alone, all of that creative energy can be directed toward your divine purpose. Many of you fear living alone because you have been taught that creativity flourishes in relationship, in connection, in partnership. But I tell you now, while collaboration can certainly produce wonderful things, the most profound creativity always emerges from solitude, from that sacred space where you are one with your own imagination. Think of it this way: every great book, every magnificent symphony, every profound philosophical insight, these came not from committees or relationships, but from individuals who were willing to spend long hours alone with their thoughts, alone with their creativity, alone with their God. Let me share with you another truth that many find difficult to accept. Relationships often drain our energy rather than enhance it. They often deplete our resources rather than multiply them. They often diminish our power rather than amplify it. But when you live alone, properly understanding this state, your energy remains intact. Your resources remain your own. Your power remains undiluted. This is not selfishness. This is stewardship of your divine gifts. Consider the words of Scripture. What shall it profit a man if he gains the whole world but loses his own soul? I tell you now, many relationships cause exactly this: a losing of oneself in the attempt to gain or maintain connection with another. Many of you have been taught that relationships are necessary for growth, for learning, for becoming who you are meant to be. But I tell you now, while relationships can certainly teach us things, the most profound growth, the deepest learning, the most complete becoming always happens in solitude. Think about it. When you are constantly adjusting to another's presence, constantly accommodating another's reality, constantly compromising your own truth, how can you truly grow in meant you are meant to be? How can you truly hear your own inner guidance? How can you truly follow your own divine path? Let me share with you another principle that I have tested and proven. The state of living alone, when properly understood, is the most powerful manifestation state you can occupy. For in this state, your manifestation energy is not divided, not compromised, not diluted by the needs and desires of others. Consider this. When you are in a relationship, how often do you modify your desires to accommodate your partner? How often do you compromise your dreams to maintain harmony? How often do you settle for less than what you truly want? Because it's easier than dealing with conflict. But when you live alone, your desires remain pure. Your dreams remain intact. Your manifestations remain undiluted. This is not selfishness. This is alignment with your divine nature. Think of it this way: every great achievement, every magnificent creation, every profound breakthrough, these came not from compromise or consensus, but from individuals who were willing to stand alone in their vision, alone in their purpose, alone in their truth. Let me share with you another truth that society often tries to deny. Relationships often create more limitation than liberation. They often bring more constraint than freedom, more obligation than opportunity, more burden than blessing. But when you live alone, properly understanding this state, you are truly free. Free to pursue your dreams without compromise. Free to follow your guidance without explanation. Free to be who you truly are without apology. Consider the great innovators throughout history. Yes, they may have had teams and supporters, but their greatest innovations came from their willingness to stand alone in their vision, to trust their own imagination, to follow their own guidance. Many of you spend your lives seeking security in relationships, seeking safety in partnerships, seeking stability in connections with others. But I tell you now, the only true security, the only real safety, the only lasting stability comes from your connection with your own divine nature. Think about it. How many relationships have you entered seeking security, only to find more insecurity? How many partnerships have you formed seeking safety, only to find more danger? How many connections have you made seeking stability, only to find more chaos? This is because you are seeking outside yourself what can only be found within. The security you seek is not in another person, it is in your recognition of your own divine nature. The safety you desire is not in a relationship, it is in your connection with your own awaken. Let me share with you another principle that I have tested and proven. The state of living alone, when properly understood, is the most powerful, abundant state you can occupy. For in this state, your resources are not divided, not compromised, not diluted by the needs and demands of relationship. Consider this: when you are in a relationship, how much of your abundance goes to maintaining the relationship itself? How much of your resources are spent on managing the dynamics, handling the compromises, navigating the conflicts? But when you live alone, all of those resources can be directed toward your divine purpose. Many of you fear living alone because you have been taught that abundance comes through partnership, through sharing, through combining resources with another. But I tell you now, while sharing can certainly multiply abundance, the most profound abundance always flows from your recognition of your own completeness. Think of it this way: every great fortune, every magnificent empire, every profound legacy, these came not from relationships or partnerships, but from individuals who were willing to stand alone in their vision, alone in their purpose, alone in their truth. Let me share with you another truth that many find difficult to accept. Relationships often create more scarcity than abundance. They often bring more limitation than expansion, more constraint than freedom, more obligation than opportunity. But when you live alone, properly understanding this state, you experience true abundance. Not just material abundance, though that certainly comes, but the abundance of being fully yourself, of living fully your truth, of expressing fully your divine nature. Consider the words of Scripture: seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, and all these things shall be added unto you. The kingdom of heaven is not in another person, it is within you. When you seek it there, everything else naturally falls into place. Many of you have been taught that relationships are necessary for success, for achievement, for creating the life you desire. But I tell you now, while relationships can certainly support our success, the most profound achievements, the greatest successes, the most complete creations always come from our willingness to stand alone in our truth. Think about it: when you are constantly adjusting to another's presence, constantly accommodating another's reality, constantly compromising your own vision, how can you truly create what you are meant to create? How can you truly achieve what you are meant to achieve? How can you truly succeed in your divine purpose? Let me share with you another principle that I have tested and proven. The state of living alone, when properly understood, is the most powerful peace state you can occupy. For in this state, your peace is not dependent on another's mood, not compromised by another's stress, not diluted by another's chaos. Consider this: when you are in a relationship, how much of your peace is disturbed by your partner's moods? How much of your tranquility is disrupted by their stress? How much of your serenity is compromised by their chaos? But when you live alone, your peace remains intact. Your tranquility remains undisturbed. Your serenity remains complete. Many of you fear living alone because you have been taught that peace comes through relationship, through sharing your life with another. But I tell you now, while relationships can certainly bring moments of peace, the most profound peace, the deepest tranquility, the most complete serenity always comes from within. Think of it this way. Every great sage, every magnificent teacher, every profound master, did they not find their greatest peace in solitude? Did they not discover their deepest wisdom in silence? I speak to you tonight about a principle so profound, yet so simple, that many of you may dismiss it at first. But I tell you with absolute conviction, the most important focus of your life must be yourself. Not the self that the world knows, but the self that is your true identity, your divine nature, your I am. When I say focus on yourself, I am not speaking of the outer self that you present to the world. I speak of that deeper self, that infinite being within you, that is God. For you must understand this fundamental truth. Your consciousness, your I amness is God. This is not blasphemy. This is the deepest truth of Scripture, hidden in plain sight for those with eyes to see. Consider the words, be still, and know that I am God. These words are not speaking of a distant deity in some far-off heaven. They speak of your own wonderful human imagination, your own consciousness. When you truly focus on yourself, you are focusing on God. For you and the Father are one. Many of you come to me asking about manifestation, about creating your desires in the external world. But I tell you now, all manifestation begins with self-focus, with the recognition of who you really are. For how can you manifest anything if you do not first understand that you are the operant power? You are the God of your universe. Let me share with you a principle that I have tested and proven countless times. When you focus on yourself, your true self, you are focusing on the only creative power in existence. All things come from within. There is no other source. The world you see now is nothing more than your consciousness pushed out. Every person, every circumstance, every condition in your life is yourself pushed out. Do you understand the magnitude of this truth? Everything you see, everything you experience is yourself made visible. Therefore, to change anything in your world, you must first change yourself. Not the outer self, but your conception of yourself, your inner knowing. When I speak of focusing on yourself, I am speaking of assuming the state of consciousness of the person you wish to be. This is not about changing your actions first. Actions follow consciousness. First, you must focus on being the person who would naturally have, do, or be what you desire. Let me give you the perfect example from Scripture. When David faced Goliath, he didn't focus on the giant before him. He focused on himself as the victor. He dwelt in the consciousness of victory before a single stone was thrown. This is the secret that most of the world has missed. David focused on himself as the winner, not on the problem before him. You see, most people have it backwards. They focus on what they want to change in their external world. They focus on their problems, their limitations, their current circumstances. But I tell you now, this is like trying to change your reflection in the mirror by arguing with the mirror. You must change yourself and the reflection will change automatically. When I tell you to focus on yourself, I am telling you to focus on the state you wish to occupy. If you want wealth, focus on yourself as wealthy. If you want love, focus on yourself as loved. If you want success, focus on yourself as successful. But, and this is crucial, you must do this from the inside out. Consider this. Every night before you sleep, where does your focus go? Most of you focus on the events of the day, the problems you face, the things you lack. But I tell you, this is the exact opposite of what you should do. Instead, focus on yourself in the state of your wish fulfilled. Feel yourself to be the person who has what you desire. Many of you may be thinking, but Neville, isn't this selfish? Shouldn't we focus on others? Let me be very clear, there are no others. What you see as others are aspects of yourself pushed out. Therefore, when you truly focus on yourself, your highest self, your divine self, you are focusing on all of humanity. For we are all one consciousness, individualized into seemingly separate beings. The great secret that the mystics and prophets have tried to share throughout the ages is this: your consciousness is the only reality. Everything else, absolutely everything, springs from your consciousness. Therefore, focusing on yourself is not selfish. It is the most profound act of creation you can engage in. Let me share with you a technique I have often used and taught. When you go into the silence of your own being, focus on yourself as having already achieved your desire. Do not think of how it will happen. Do not think of the process. Think only of the end, of the person you would be when your desire is fulfilled. If you wish to be wealthy, do not focus on making money. Focus on yourself as someone who is already wealthy. Feel the naturalness of wealth. Feel how you would feel if wealth were your natural state. Feel the security, the freedom, the peace that comes with wealth. This is focusing on yourself in the proper way. If you seek love, do not focus on finding someone to love you. Focus on yourself as someone who is deeply loved and cherished. Feel how you would feel if perfect love were your natural state. Feel the warmth, the security, the joy of being completely loved. This is focusing on yourself in the state of the wish fulfilled. Some of you might be wondering, but what about action? Don't we need to do something? Yes, action will come, but it will come naturally and effortlessly when you have properly focused on yourself in the state of the wish fulfilled. The actions will flow from your new state of consciousness, not from your current state of lack. Remember the story of Moses parting the Red Sea. He didn't focus on the impossibility before him. He didn't focus on the problem. He focused on himself as one who had the power to lead his people to safety. His focus on himself as the deliverer created the miracle. The sea parted not because of what he did, but because of who he knew himself to be. This is the true meaning of focusing on yourself. It is not about ego. It is not about selfishness. It is about recognizing and claiming your divine nature. It is about understanding that you are the operant power in your world. Everything you see, everything you experience is beauty. When you walk through your day, remember this truth. The world you see is yourself pushed out. Every person you meet is yourself pushed out. Every circumstance you encounter is yourself pushed out. Therefore, to change anything, focus on yourself, not the outer self, but the inner self, the consciousness from which all things spring. I want you to grasp this principle so deeply that it becomes the foundation of your entire life. Your consciousness is the only reality. Your I amness is God. Therefore, when you focus on yourself, your true self, you are focusing on the creative power of the universe. Do not make the mistake of thinking that focusing on yourself means becoming self-centered in the egotistical sense. This is not about the personality, the outer self. This is about recognizing and claiming your divine nature. This is about understanding that you are the operant power in your world. Let me share with you another profound truth. The state you focus on becomes your reality. If you focus on yourself as limited, as lacking, as unable, that becomes your reality. But if you focus on yourself as the embodiment of success, of abundance, of love, that becomes your reality. The choice is yours. And you make this choice through your focus. Consider the story of Joseph in the Bible. While in prison, he didn't focus on his circumstances. He focused on himself as the interpreter of dreams, as one who had a divine gift. His focus on himself in this elevated state led him from the prison to the palace. This is the power of proper self-focus. Many of you spend your days focusing on what's wrong in your life, what's missing, what needs to be fixed. But I tell you now, this is the opposite of what you should do. Instead, focus on yourself as the person who has what you desire. Feel yourself to be that person. Live from that state. The world is yourself pushed out. Therefore, when you focus on yourself properly, you are focusing on the cause, not the effect. You are focusing on the root, not the fruit. You are focusing on the creator, not the creation. When you go to sleep tonight, I want you to focus on yourself as the person you wish to be. Feel the naturalness of being that person. Feel how that person would feel. Let this feeling saturate your consciousness. This is not imagination in the fantasy sense. This is using your imagination as the creative power it truly is. Remember, your consciousness is the only reality. Everything else, your body, your circumstances, your relationships, your possessions, these are all effects. They are all yourself pushed out. Therefore, to change any effect, you must change the cause, and the cause is always your consciousness, your concept of yourself. Let me be very clear about this. When I tell you to focus on yourself, I am telling you to focus on the state of consciousness you wish to occupy. If you want health, focus on yourself as healthy. If you want wealth, focus on yourself as wealthy. If you want love, focus on yourself as loved. But do this from the inside out, not the outside in. Many of you try to change things from the outside in. You try to change your circumstances first, hoping that this will change how you feel about yourself. But this is backwards. You must change yourself first, your concept of yourself, your inner knowing, and then the outer world will conform to this new self-concept. Think of it this way. Everything you see in your world is yourself pushed out. Therefore, if you don't like what you see, don't try to change the outer picture. Change yourself, your concept of yourself, and the outer picture must change to match your new self-concept. This is why focusing on yourself is so crucial. Not the self that the world knows, but the self that is your true identity. Focus on yourself as the person who already has what you desire. Feel the naturalness of being that person. Live from that state. Let me share with you another principle that I have tested and proven. The state you occupy is the state that manifests. If you occupy the state of lack, lack manifests. If you occupy the state of abundance, abundance manifests. If you occupy the state of love, love manifests. This is law. Therefore, when you focus on yourself in the state you wish to manifest. If you want success, focus on yourself as successful. Feel how you would feel if success were your natural state. Let this feeling saturate your consciousness until it becomes your dominant state. Many of you make the mistake of trying to change things in your outer world while maintaining the same concept of yourself. But I tell you now, this is impossible. The outer world can only reflect your concept of yourself. It cannot be otherwise. Think of yourself as a radio broadcasting station. Whatever frequency you broadcast, whatever state you occupy, that is what manifests in your world. Therefore, to change your world, change your broadcast. Change your concept of yourself. When you go into meditation or prayer, do not focus on what you want to change in your outer world. Focus on yourself as the person who already has what you desire. Feel the naturalness of being that person. Let this feeling saturate your consciousness. Remember, the feeling is the secret. Not the intellectual understanding, not the affirmations, not the visualizations, although these can be helpful tools. The feeling of being the person who already has what you desire is the key. Let me give you a practical application of this principle. If you want more money in your life, do not focus on getting money. Focus on yourself as someone who naturally has money. Feel how you would feel if money were your natural state. Feel the security, the freedom, the peace that comes with having money. If you want better relationships, do not focus on finding the right person or fixing your current relationships. Focus on yourself as someone who naturally experiences wonderful relationships. Feel how you would feel if perfect relationships were your natural state. The world is yourself pushed out. Therefore, whatever you focus on in yourself becomes your reality. If you focus on lack, lack manifests. If you focus on abundance, abundance manifests. If you focus on love, love manifests. This is law. Many of you spend your time trying to manipulate the outer world, trying to make things happen, trying to control circumstances and people. But I tell you now, this is unnecessary. Focus on yourself, your concept of yourself, and the outer world must conform to this self-concept. Remember, there is only one cause in all creation, and that cause is consciousness. Your consciousness, your I amness. Therefore, when you focus on yourself properly, you are focusing on the only creative power in existence. Let me share with you another profound truth. The state you accept as real is the state that manifests. If you accept yourself as limited, limitation manifests. If you accept yourself as abundant, abundance manifests. If you accept yourself as love, love manifests. Therefore, when you focus on yourself, focus on accepting the state you wish to manifest. Accept it as real. Accept it as natural. Accept it as your true state. This acceptance is crucial. Many of you struggle with accepting the state you desire because your senses tell you otherwise. But I tell you now, Your senses only show you what has been manifested from past states of consciousness. They cannot show you what is possible. I think of it this way: your senses can only show you what has been. They cannot show you what can be. Therefore, do not let your senses dictate your concept of yourself. Choose the concept you wish to embody and focus on that. When you go to sleep tonight, I want you to focus on yourself as the person you wish to be. Feel the naturalness of being that person. Accept this as your true state. Let this acceptance saturate your consciousness until it becomes your dominant state. Remember, the outer world can only reflect your concept of yourself. It cannot be otherwise. Therefore, if you want to change your outer world, change your concept of yourself. This is the true meaning of focusing on yourself. Many of you make the mistake of trying to change things in your outer world while maintaining the same concept of yourself. But I tell you now, this is like trying to change your reflection in the mirror by arguing with the mirror. You must change yourself, and the reflection will change automatically. Let me share with you another principle that I have tested and proven. The state you persist in is the state that manifests. If you persist in the state of lack, lack manifests. If you persist in the state of abundance, abundance manifests. If you persist in the state of love, love manifests. Therefore, when you focus on yourself, persist in the state you wish to manifest. If you want success, persist in seeing yourself as successful. Feel how you would feel if success were your natural state. Let this feeling become so familiar that it becomes your dominant state. Remember, persistence is crucial. You cannot occupy a state for a moment and expect it to manifest. You must persist in the state until it becomes your natural state, your dominant state. Many of you give up too soon. You occupy a state for a day or two, see no results, and return to your old state. But I tell you now, persistence is key. Persist in the state you wish to manifest, regardless of appearances. Think of it this way: when you plant a seed, you don't dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You trust the law of growth. In the same way, when you plant a new concept of yourself, trust the law of manifestation. Persist in the state, regardless of appearances. Let me share with you another profound truth. The state you believe in is the state that manifests. If you believe in limitation, limitation manifests. If you believe in abundance, abundance manifests. If you believe in love, love manifests. Therefore, when you focus on yourself, focus on believing in the state you wish to manifest. Believe in it completely. Believe in it naturally. Believe in it your true state. This belief is crucial. Many of you struggle with believing in the state you desire because your past experiences tell you otherwise. But I tell you now, your past experiences only show you what has been manifested from past beliefs. They cannot show you what is possible with new beliefs. Think of it this way: your past experiences can only show you what has been. They cannot show you what can be. Therefore, do not let your past experiences dictate your beliefs about yourself. Choose the beliefs you wish to embody and focus on those. When you go about your day, I want you to focus on yourself as the person you wish to be. Believe in this version of yourself completely. Accept it as your true state. Let this belief saturate your consciousness until it becomes your dominant state. Remember, the outer world can only reflect your beliefs about yourself. It cannot be otherwise. Therefore, if you want to change your outer world, change your beliefs about yourself. This is the true meaning of focusing on yourself. Let me share with you one final principle. The state you live from is the state that manifests. If you live from lack, lack manifests. If you live from abundance, abundance manifests. If you live from love, love manifests. Therefore, when you focus on yourself, focus on living from the state you wish to manifest. If you want success, live from the state of success. Feel how you would feel if success were your natural state. Let this feeling guide your thoughts, your words, your actions. Remember, living from a state is different from trying to achieve a state. When you live from a state, you are that state now. When you try to achieve a state, you push it into the future. Many of you make the mistake of putting your desired state into the future. You say, I will be successful, I will be wealthy, I will be loved. But I tell you now, this keeps your desire forever. The art of manifesting multiple desires simultaneously is not merely possible. It is the natural state of your divine being. For you are not limited to manifesting one desire at a time. Just as God does not create one thing at a time, but sustains and creates countless realities in every eternal moment. Let me tell you that your consciousness, your wonderful human imagination, is not bound by the limitations of time and space that appear so real to your mortal senses. Your imagination, which is God Himself operating in you, can hold multiple states with perfect clarity and bring them all into your physical experience with mathematical precision. Now let us understand this principle deeply. When you enter your room at night, you do not light one corner and wait for it to brighten before lighting another. You simply switch on the light, and the entire room is illuminated instantly. This is how your consciousness works with multiple manifestations. You need not complete one before beginning another. They all exist then or do in the wonderful human imagination. I tell you, time is merely a device of your mortal mind. In the realm of consciousness, all things exist simultaneously. When you truly grasp this, you will understand that manifesting multiple desires is no more difficult than manifesting a single desire. For in consciousness, there is no competition, no waiting line, no priority queue. Let me share with you a principle that I have tested countless times. When you desire to manifest multiple things, you must first understand that they all exist now near in what I call the fourth dimensional world, the world of consciousness. Your physical world is merely a shadow, a reflection of what you have assumed to be true in consciousness. Consider this when you dream at night. Your dream contains multiple elements, people, places, events, all existing simultaneously. Your consciousness creates and sustains all these elements without effort or strain. This same power operates in your waking state through your wonderful human imagination. Here's a technique I want to share with you tonight. Instead of thinking of your desires as separate entities competing for manifestation, see them as different aspects of your already existing perfect life. Just as a diamond has many facets, yet remains one diamond, your desired state has many aspects, yet remains one state, the state of fulfillment. You must learn to live from the end. See yourself already in possession of all that you desire. Make your multiple desires a single composite state. If you desire financial abundance, perfect health, and harmonious relationships simultaneously, do not separate them in your consciousness. Create a single scene that implies the fulfillment of all these desires. Let me give you an example. Instead of creating separate scenes for each desire, construct one scene where you are discussing with a friend how wonderful your life is, implying the fulfillment of all your desires. In this conversation, you naturally mention your flourishing business, your perfect health, and your harmonious relationships as already existing facts. This single scene, when entered into with feeling and conviction, will set in motion all that is necessary for the manifestation of your multiple desires. Remember, my dear friends, the outside world is dead. It has no power to create or to prevent. It is purely a shadow world reflecting what you have assumed to be true in consciousness. Therefore, do not be concerned with the how or the when of your manifestations. Your only responsibility is to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled for all your desires. Now, here is a vital point that many miss. When manifesting multiple desires, you must not strain or effort. Strain implies that what you want is absent, distant, or difficult to achieve. Instead, relax into the assumption that all your desires are already fulfilled. Feel the naturalness of having all that you desire. I want you to understand this deeply. The feeling is the secret. The feeling of naturalness is the key to manifesting multiple desires simultaneously. When something is natural to you, it requires no effort to maintain. You don't wake up each morning wondering if gravity will work today. Its operation is natural to you. This is how your fulfilled desire should feel, natural, normal, and already yours. Let me tell you a principle that has never failed. Before you sleep tonight, review your day as though all your desires are already fulfilled. Feel the joy, the satisfaction, the completeness of having all that you desire. Make this feeling so real that as you drift into sleep, your physical world seems like a shadow and your imagined state feels more real. You see, my dear friends, manifesting multiple desires simultaneously is not about working harder or doing more. It's about understanding the true nature of consciousness and its relationship to your physical world. Your consciousness is the only reality. All else is derived from it. When you truly grasp this, you will understand that there is no limit to what you can manifest simultaneously. Just as a mirror reflects everything placed before it without strain or selection, your physical world must reflect whatever state you have assumed in consciousness. Now, let me share with you another profound truth. Your multiple desires, though they may seem separate in the physical world, are united in consciousness by a single feeling, the feeling of fulfillment. This is why I emphasize feeling rather than visualization. The feeling of fulfillment, when achieved, automatically brings with it all that is necessary for its expression in your physical world. Remember, my dear friends, revision is a powerful tool when manifesting multiple desires. If during your day events seem to contradict your desired state, revise them immediately in your imagination. See them conforming perfectly to your desires. This is not denial, this is the proper use of the law. You must persist in this practice until your desired state becomes your dominant feeling. Just as a musician must practice until the piece becomes second nature, you must persist in your assumption until it becomes your natural state of being. Let me tell you something that many find hard to accept. Time is not a factor in the fulfillment of your desire. What appears to take time in the physical world is merely the unfolding of what has already been accomplished in consciousness. Therefore, when manifesting multiple desires, do not think in terms of time or sequence. Your wonderful human imagination knows no limitations. It can handle multiple desires with the same ease as it handles one. Just as your eyes can perceive multiple objects simultaneously without strain, your consciousness can hold multiple fulfilled desires without effort. Here is a practical application. Before you sleep tonight, construct a scene that implies the fulfillment of all your desires. Make it a short, simple scene. Perhaps you are sharing with a friend how everything in your life has fallen perfectly into place. Feel the joy, the satisfaction, the completeness of this state. Fall asleep in this feeling. Remember, my dear friends, your consciousness is God operating in you as you. Therefore, it has the power to fulfill all your desires simultaneously. There is no need for prioritization or scheduling in consciousness. All is no-do. When doubts arise, and they will arise, for that is the nature of the mortal mind, remember this truth. Your physical senses show you only shadows of past assumptions. Your true power lies in your ability to assume a new state now, regardless of what your senses dictate. Let me share with you another principle. Your multiple desires are not separate entities requiring separate efforts. They are different aspects of your expanded consciousness. When you truly understand this, you will see that manifesting multiple desires is as natural as breathing. Consider this: when you breathe, you don't consciously coordinate the multiple processes involved. Your body knows exactly what to do. Similarly, when you assume the feeling of your wishes fulfilled, the infinite intelligence within you knows exactly how to bring about their manifestation. Now, here is a vital point about manifesting multiple desires. Do not concern yourself with the bridge of incidents, the series of events that will lead to your manifestation. Your only responsibility is to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The infinite intelligence within you will arrange all the necessary details. Remember, my dear friends, your physical world is merely your servant, faithfully reflecting your consciousness assumptions. Therefore, maintain your assumption of fulfillment regardless of appearances. The physical world has no choice but to conform to your conscious assumptions. Let me emphasize this point. When manifesting multiple desires, do not make the mistake of trying to figure out how they will all come about. This is not your responsibility. Your only responsibility is to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Here is another practical application. Throughout your day, whenever you think of any of your desires, see them as already fulfilled. Make this your habitual attitude. Let the feeling of fulfillment be your constant companion. Remember, my dear friends, you are not trying to make something happen. You are assuming that it has already happened. This is the crucial difference that many fail to grasp. You are not working towards something, you are living from the end. when manifesting multiple desires, maintain this attitude. Isn't it wonderful that everything is working out perfectly in my life? This simple attitude, maintained with feeling, will do more for your manifestation than all the planning and striving in the world. Let me tell you something about the nature of manifestation. Everything in your physical world is a manifestation of consciousness. Therefore, when you change your consciousness, everything in your world must change to conform to your new assumption. This is why, my dear friends, I emphasize the importance of living from the end. When you live from the end, you are not trying to make things happen. You are simply allowing what is already complete in consciousness to unfold in your physical experience. Remember this principle: your consciousness is the only reality. Everything else, everything you see, hear, touch, taste, and smell is a shadow of your conscious assumptions. Therefore, when manifesting multiple desires, focus on maintaining the consciousness of fulfillment. Here is another practical point. Do not discuss your desires or your practice of this law with those who would doubt or discourage you. Your manifestations are sacred, should be kept within the sanctuary of your own consciousness until they appear in your physical world. Let me share with you another truth about manifesting multiple desires. The feeling of fulfillment is your compass. If you are properly assuming the feeling of your wish is fulfilled, you will experience a deep sense of satisfaction and peace, regardless of external circumstances. Remember, my dear friends, the law is simple but exact. It works with mathematical precision. Whatever you assume is true in consciousness must be expressed in your physical world. This is why you can manifest multiple desires simultaneously, because in consciousness all is possible and no law. Your physical senses may argue against this truth. They may show you evidence that seems to contradict your desires. But remember, your senses only show you the effects of past assumptions. Your power lies in your ability to assume a new state now. Let me give you another practical application. When you lie down to sleep tonight, feel as though you are lying down in the state of your wishes fulfilled. Feel the satisfaction, the completeness, the joy of having all that you desire. This feeling, impressed upon your subconscious mind during sleep, will work wonders. Remember this vital point: your subconscious mind does not argue. It simply accepts what you feel to be true and works faithfully to express it in your physical world. Therefore, when manifesting multiple desires, focus on impressing upon your subconscious mind the feeling of complete fulfillment. Let me share with you another vital aspect of this law. When you dream at night, do you find your dream limited to one scene, one desire, or one experience? No. Your dream consciousness effortlessly creates entire worlds, complete with multiple characters, scenarios, and experiences, all happening simultaneously. This is the same power that you possess in your waking state through your wonderful human imagination. I tell you with complete conviction that your consciousness is like an infinite ocean, capable of holding countless drops of desires without becoming full or strained. Just as the ocean doesn't struggle to contain its many waves, your consciousness doesn't struggle to hold multiple manifestations. Now let me share with you a deeper principle that many overlook. When you truly understand that all of time exists, now you will realize that there is no such thing as sequence in consciousness. Your tomorrow, your next year, your perfect life, they all exist now in the eternal moment of consciousness. Consider this: when you enter a movie theater, the entire film exists on the reel, though you experience it scene by scene. Similarly, all your desires exist and all in consciousness, though they may appear to manifest sequentially in your physical experience. This is why I tell you that manifesting multiple desires simultaneously is not only possible but natural. Here is another profound truth: your consciousness is not divided into compartments. It doesn't maintain separate folders for your different desires. All your desires exist in a unified state of fulfillment in consciousness. This is why focusing on the feeling of complete fulfillment naturally brings about the manifestation of all your desires. Let me give you a deeper understanding of this principle. When you say "I am," you are expressing the fullness of your being. This I am consciousness contains within it all that you could ever desire. Therefore, when manifesting multiple desires, focus on the feeling of "I am," the feeling of being the person who has all these desires fulfilled. Remember, my dear friends, The physical world is merely a shadow, a reflection of your conscious assumptions. Just as a shadow cannot choose what to reflect, your physical world cannot choose which of your assumptions to manifest. It must reflect all of them faithfully. Here is another practical application of this law. Throughout your day, whenever you think of your desires, do not see them as separate goals to be achieved. See them as different aspects of your already perfect life. Feel the wholeness, the completeness of being the person who has all these desires fulfilled. Let me share with you a deeper truth about the nature of consciousness. Your consciousness is not bound by the limitations of physical space. Just as a single seed contains within it the pattern for an entire forest, your consciousness contains within it all possible states of fulfillment. When you truly grasp this principle, you will understand that manifesting multiple desires simultaneously is not about dividing your attention or energy. It's about expanding your consciousness to embrace the fullness of your desired state. Consider this: when you look at a beautiful garden, you don't see each flower separately. You experience the beauty of the whole garden as one unified experience. This is how you should hold your multiple desires in consciousness, as one unified state of fulfillment. Let me tell you something about the nature of assumption. When you assume a state, you are not creating something new. You are simply choosing to experience what already exists in consciousness. Therefore, when manifesting multiple desires, you are simply choosing to experience the state where all these desires are already fulfilled. Remember this crucial point. Your physical senses may tell you that your desires are separate, that they must be achieved one at a time. But I tell you, this is merely the illusion of time and space. In consciousness, all is one, all is now. Here is another practical application. When you lie down to sleep tonight, instead of reviewing your desires as separate items on a list, feel the completeness of being the person who has all these desires fulfilled. Feel the naturalness, the ease, the grace of living in this state. Let me share with you another profound truth about manifestation. The feeling of fulfillment is not divided. You don't feel partially fulfilled or fulfilled in stages. When you truly capture the feeling of the wish fulfilled, it is a complete, whole feeling that encompasses all your desires. Consider this: when you are truly happy, you don't analyze the different aspects of your happiness. You simply feel happy as a complete state of being. This is how you should approach manifesting multiple desires, as one complete state of fulfillment. Remember, my dear friends, the law operates with perfect precision. It doesn't distinguish between big desires and small desires, between one desire and many desires. It simply responds to your conscious assumptions with mathematical precision. Let me emphasize this point: your consciousness is the only reality. Everything else, every circumstance, every condition, every event in your physical world is simply consciousness made visible. Therefore, when you change your consciousness to one of complete fulfillment, your entire world must change to reflect this new assumption. Here is another vital truth. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is your most precious gift. It is the feeling that sets in motion all that is necessary for the manifestation of your desires. Therefore, nurture this feeling, protect it, maintain it regardless of appearances. Remember, my dear friends, you are not trying to make something happen in the future. You are choosing to experience what already exists in consciousness. This is why manifesting multiple desires simultaneously is not about effort or struggle. It's about choosing to experience the state where all your desires are already fulfilled. Let me share with you another principle. The state of fulfillment is not a distant goal to be achieved. It is a present choice to be made. Right now, in this eternal moment, you can choose to experience the state where all your desires are fulfilled. Consider this: when you dream at night, you don't create the dream piece by piece. The entire dream experience appears fully formed in your consciousness. This is how manifestation works. The entire state of fulfillment exists now in consciousness, waiting for you to step into it. Remember this truth: your physical world has no choice but to reflect your conscious assumptions. Therefore, when you assume the state of complete fulfillment, all circumstances, all conditions, all events must rearrange themselves to reflect this assumption. For this is the law, my dear friends. It is exact, it is precise, and it never fails. Test it in your own experience. Prove its truth through application. For in the end, it is not what you believe about the law that matters. It is what you prove through experience. And so I tell you again, go forth and apply this law. Live from the state of complete fulfillment. Maintain the feeling of the wish fulfilled regardless of appearances. For as surely as night follows day, your physical world must conform to your conscious assumptions. For this is the promise and the law, as within, so without. As above, so below. What you assume in consciousness must manifest in your physical experience. This is the way, this is the truth, and this is the light. Remember, my dear friends, you are the operant power. You are the consciousness in which all things exist. Therefore, choose wisely, assume lovingly, and live constantly in the state of your wishes fulfilled. For this is the secret of manifesting multiple desires simultaneously. To live from the end, to live in the state of complete fulfillment nano-D. And in this eternal now all things are possible, all desires are fulfilled, and all manifestation is complete. This is the truth I share with you tonight. This is the law that never fails. This is the promise that is always kept. In closing, my dear friends, remember that you are the operant power in your world. Your consciousness is the only reality. Your physical world is simply responding to what you have assumed to be true. Therefore, assume wisely, assume lovingly, and above all, assume the feeling of your wishes fulfilled. The one thing you must stop doing, the very thing that pushes success away from you, is living in the consciousness of lack. Now let me tell you what I mean by this, for it is of paramount importance. Every moment of your day, you are either living in the consciousness of lack or the consciousness of abundance. There is no middle ground, no neutral state of being. When you declare, I want success, you are actually affirming its absence. When you say, I need more money, you are dwelling in the consciousness of not having enough. When you proclaim, I wish I was successful, you are living in a state of wanting rather than having. Do you see the subtle yet crucial difference? Let me share with you a principle that I have tested and proven countless times. The outside world is nothing more than the objectification of your inner assumptions. Whatever you are experiencing now, be it lack or abundance, is the direct result of your accepted beliefs about yourself and the world. Tonight, I will show you how to move from the consciousness of lack to the consciousness of fulfillment, from the state of wanting to the state of having, from the condition of seeking to the condition of being. Consider this. When you say, I want success, you are placing success outside of yourself, making it something to be attained rather than something to be expressed. This is the fundamental error that keeps pushing success away from you. Success is not something to be pursued, it is a consciousness to be assumed. Let me tell you a story from my own experience. Many years ago, I knew a man who constantly spoke about wanting to be successful. He would say, when I become successful, I will. And then list all the things he would do. Year after year, success eluded him. Why? Because he was living in the consciousness of wanting success rather than being successful. Then one day he heard what I'm telling you now. He realized that as long as he lived in the consciousness of wanting success, he would continue to experience the want of success. That very night, he made a fundamental shift in his consciousness. Instead of saying, I want success, he began to live from the consciousness of being successful. He would fall asleep each night feeling the naturalness of being successful. He would walk through his day experiencing the feeling of being successful. He made this his new normal state of consciousness. Now pay careful attention to what I'm about to tell you, for this is the crux of the matter. Success is not a future event. It is a present state of consciousness. The feeling of being successful now is the secret of experiencing success in what you call the future. When you live in the consciousness of lack, saying things like, I need more money, I want better relationships, I wish I had more opportunities, you are actually reinforcing the very state that keeps these things from you. You are dwelling in the consciousness of absence, and the law of consciousness dictates that what you assume, you must express. Let me show you how to make this fundamental shift in consciousness. First, you must understand that your imagination is not a tool for daydreaming about what you want. It is the very substance of reality itself. When I speak of imagination, I am speaking of your consciousness, your I amness. The Bible tells us, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." This is not mere poetry, it is a practical instruction in the art of consciousness transformation. When you continue to live in the consciousness of lack, you are using your imagination, your creative power, to perpetuate the very condition you wish to change. Consider this profound truth. Everything in your world is pushing against you with the force of your own assumption. If you assume lack, the whole world will prove you right. If you assume abundance, the same world will reorganize itself to prove that assumption. Now, let me give you a practical technique to stop living in the consciousness of lack. Tonight, when you go to bed, instead of reviewing your day of wanting and seeking success, you will enter into a new state of consciousness. You will feel as though you are already successful. But remember, this is not mere positive thinking or affirmation. This is a complete assumption of the state of consciousness of being successful. Feel its naturalness. Feel how it would feel to be the person you desire to be. Feel the satisfaction, the contentment, the gratitude that would be yours if you were already expressing success. Many of you are thinking, "But Neville, how can I feel successful when my current reality shows me the opposite?" This is where most people remain trapped in the consciousness of lack. They allow their current circumstances to dictate their inner state. Let me tell you something remarkable. Your present circumstances are nothing more than the harvest of your previous assumptions. They have no power to determine your future unless you give them that power by accepting them as final. Think about this. Every great achievement in human history began with someone who dared to assume a state that their senses denied. Every invention, every discovery, every advancement started in the imagination of someone who refused to accept current circumstances as final. The one thing you must stop doing is allowing your present facts to determine your inner conversations. Your inner conversations are your actual state of consciousness. When you say, "I can't afford it, it's too difficult, I'm not qualified enough," you are having inner conversations that perpetuate the state of lack. Instead, you must begin new inner conversations based on the assumption of already being what you desire to be. When you walk, you must walk with the feeling of being successful. When you talk, you must talk from the consciousness of being successful. When you work, you must work from the state of being successful. Let me share with you a profound secret. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the secret of creation. Whatever you are feeling as true about yourself right now is creating your future experiences. If you are feeling the frustration of wanting success, you are creating more experiences of wanting success. Now, let us delve deeper into the practical application of this principle. When I tell you to live in the consciousness of success rather than the consciousness of lack, I am not suggesting mere mental gymnastics. I am revealing to you the very foundation of creation itself. Consider this. Every night before you sleep, your consciousness is in a state of high receptivity. This is the time when the seed of your assumption will take root most deeply. Instead of falling asleep feeling the frustration of what you don't have, fall asleep in the consciousness of already having what you desire. Let me give you a specific technique. As you lay in your bed, close your eyes and ask yourself this question: how would I feel if I were already expressing the success I desire? Then let that feeling envelop you completely. Feel the satisfaction, the contentment, the absolute knowing that success is not something you're seeking, but something you're expressing right now. Remember, the subconscious mind accepts as true whatever you feel to be true. It doesn't argue, it doesn't question, it simply accepts and then proceeds to express that acceptance in your outer world. This is why feeling is the secret. Many of you have been told that you must work hard, struggle, and sacrifice to achieve success. But I tell you, these are the very assumptions that keep you bound to the consciousness of lack. Success is not achieved through effort. It is expressed through assumption. Think about this. When you assume the feeling of success, you are actually moving into a different state of consciousness. In this new state, opportunities that were always there but invisible to your previous state of consciousness suddenly become visible and available to you. Let me share with you a principle that few understand. The whole vast world is yourself pushed out. Everything you perceive is an expression of your own consciousness. Therefore, when you live in the consciousness of lack, The whole world conspires to show you lack. When you live in the consciousness of success, the same world reorganizes itself to show you success. Now, some of you might be thinking, but Neville, what about action? Don't we need to do something? Yes, but your actions must spring from the consciousness of already being successful, not from the consciousness of trying to become successful. Do you see the difference? When you act from the consciousness of lack, your actions are tinged with anxiety, doubt, and the energy of seeking. But when you act from the consciousness of already being successful, your actions flow naturally, effortlessly, inspired by the very state you have assumed. Consider this: success is not a destination. It is a state of consciousness. Just as you can move from one room to another in your physical home, you can move from one state of consciousness to another in your spiritual home. The move is accomplished not by physical effort, but by assumption. Let me tell you something profound. The state of consciousness of already being successful knows exactly what to do. It knows precisely what actions to take. It attracts the right circumstances, the right people, the right opportunities. But you must first occupy that state. Let us now address what many find most challenging: maintaining this new state of consciousness when your external world has not yet caught up with your inner assumption. This is where most people falter, where they allow the evidence of their senses to pull them back into the consciousness of lack. Remember this eternal truth: the outer world must conform to your inner assumptions, but it does so in its own time and in what often appears to be a natural way. While you're waiting for the outer manifestation, you must maintain the consciousness of already being what you desire to be. Let me share with you what I mean by persistence in assumption. When you wake each morning, your first thoughts often determine the tone of your entire day. Instead of waking to thoughts of what you lack or what you need to achieve, wake to the consciousness of already being successful. Feel it as naturally as you feel the pillow beneath your head. Many of you ask, but Neville, what about when things go wrong? What about when circumstances seem to contradict my assumption? Listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you, for this is crucial. Circumstances have no power to alter your state of consciousness unless you give them that power. When circumstances seem to deny your assumption, that is the time to intensify your feeling of already being what you desire to be. Remember, the outer world is only reflecting your past assumptions. Your present assumption, if persisted in, will become your future fact. Consider this: every moment of your day, you are either strengthening your new state of consciousness or falling back into the old state of lack. Your inner conversations, your reactions to events, your feelings about yourself, these are either confirming your new state or contradicting it. Let me give you a specific example. When you receive a bill in the mail, do you immediately fall into the consciousness of lack, thinking, how will I pay this? Or do you maintain the consciousness of abundance, knowing that as a successful person, all your needs are met with ease? Your reaction in such moments reveals your true state of consciousness. This is why I tell you, the one thing you must stop doing is allowing external circumstances to determine your internal state. Your internal state must be maintained regardless of external evidence. This is the art of living from the end. Think about this: success is not something that happens to you. It is something that happens from you. It is the outer expression of an inner conviction. When you truly live in the consciousness of being successful, success becomes as natural as breathing. Many of you have been taught to set goals, to make plans, to take action. But I tell you, before all of these, you must first establish the consciousness of already being what you desire to be. For your goals, plans, and actions will then spring from this new state of consciousness, carrying with them the power of fulfillment. Let me share with you a profound secret about manifestation. The world is not responding to your wants, your needs, or your wishes. It is responding to your state of consciousness. When you live in the consciousness of lack, saying, I want success, you are actually manifesting more wanting, not more success. Now let us discuss what I consider to be the most vital aspect of this teaching: the role of faith in maintaining your new state of consciousness. But when I speak of faith, I do not mean blind belief or hoping for the best. I speak of faith as the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen in the external world. Consider this profound truth. Faith is nothing more than loyalty to your unseen assumption. When you assume the consciousness of being successful and persist in that assumption despite all external evidence to the contrary, you are exercising true faith. Let me tell you something that few understand about the nature of faith. Faith is not believing that something will happen in the future. Faith is knowing that what you desire is already yours in consciousness, and therefore must manifest in your experience. This is why I tell you that imagination creates reality. Many of you struggle with maintaining your assumption because you're constantly looking for evidence in the external world. But I tell you, the evidence appears after the assumption, never before. Your task is to remain faithful to your assumption until it hardens into fact. Think about this. Every time you say, "I'll believe it when I see it," you are living in direct opposition to the law of consciousness. The correct attitude is, "I'll see it because I believe it." This is the true meaning of faith. When you wake in the morning and your external world shows no sign of your assumed success, that is the moment to intensify your faith. Instead of allowing the external to shake your conviction, let every contradiction strengthen your resolve to maintain your new state of consciousness. Let me share with you a practical technique for maintaining your faith. Throughout your day, whenever you notice yourself slipping back into the consciousness of lack, stop and ask yourself this question: how would I be thinking and feeling right now if I were already expressing the success I desire? This simple question will bring you back to your desired state of consciousness. But remember, this is not about pretending or deceiving yourself. It is about assuming the natural feeling of already being what you desire to be. Consider how a truly successful person thinks and feels. They don't wake up wondering if success will come to them. They don't go through their day seeking success. They live, move, and have their being in the consciousness of success. This must become your new normal. Many of you have created habits of thought and feeling that perpetuate the consciousness of lack. Every time you say, "I can't afford it," "It's too difficult, I'm not ready," you are strengthening these habits. These must be replaced with new habits that spring from your assumed state of success. Let me tell you something profound about habits of consciousness. They can be changed in an instant by assumption. The moment you assume a new state of consciousness, you have changed. The persistence of that change depends entirely on your loyalty to the new state. Let us now explore what happens in the interval between your assumption and its manifestation in the physical world. This interval is where most people falter, where they allow doubt to creep in and return to the old state of consciousness. Remember this: the interval is not a period of waiting, it is a period of gestation. Just as a seed planted in the ground requires time to grow into a visible plant, your assumption requires time to grow into a visible manifestation. But the seed does not doubt. It simply grows according to law. Many of you ask, "How long must I maintain this new consciousness before I see results?" This is the voice of doubt, the voice that would pull you back into the consciousness of lack. Time is not a factor in the operation of consciousness. The only factor is the intensity and persistence of your assumption. Consider this: every moment you spend wondering when your desire will manifest is a moment spent in the consciousness of not having it. Every moment you spend checking to see if it's working is a moment of doubt. These moments of doubt are like continually digging up a seed to see if it's growing. Let me share with you the secret of perfect faith. Live as though your assumption is already fact. When you truly assume the consciousness of being successful, you no longer worry about when or how it will manifest. You simply live from that state, knowing that what you have assumed in consciousness must objectify itself in your world. Think about this: the outer world is nothing more than a delayed reflection of your inner assumptions. What you are experiencing now is the result of past assumptions. What you will experience tomorrow is being determined by your consciousness today. Many of you struggle with what appears to be failure or setback. But I tell you, there is no such thing as failure when you understand the law of consciousness. What appears as failure is simply the passing away of an old state of consciousness. It is making way for the new state you have assumed. Let me tell you something profound about the nature of success. It is not a series of achievements or acquisitions. It is a state of consciousness that, once truly assumed, expresses itself in countless ways in your external world. When you live in the consciousness of success, success becomes your natural experience. Consider how different your life would be if you never again lived in the consciousness of lack. If you never again said, I can't, I need, I want. If you lived completely and consistently in the consciousness of already being what you desire to be. This is the challenge I leave with you tonight. Stop doing the one thing that pushes success away. Stop living in the consciousness of lack. Begin now to live in the consciousness of fulfillment. Let every thought, every feeling, every inner conversation spring from the assumption that you are already what you desire to be. Remember this eternal truth. The world is yourself pushed out. Change your concept of self, and you change your world. There is no other way. All things exist in consciousness, and it is from consciousness that all things appear. Your task is simple, though it may not be easy. Assume the consciousness of being successful now. Not tomorrow, not when circumstances change, but now. For now is the only time there is, and now is when your assumptions are creating your future. I leave you with this final thought. Success is not something you pursue. It is something you express from a state of consciousness. The consciousness of lack perpetuates lack. The consciousness of success perpetuates success. Choose this day which consciousness you will live from. For in the end, there is only one cause behind all effects, one source of all manifestation, consciousness. And you are that consciousness individualized as you. The power is within you. The choice is yours. The time is now. Test this law. Prove it to yourself. For in the testing lies your freedom, and in the proving lies your transformation. Go now and live in the assumption that you are already that which you desire to be, and watch as your world transforms to reflect your new state of consciousness. The one thing you must stop doing is waiting to be successful. For success is not a future state to be achieved, it is a present state to be assumed. Assume it now, live from it now, be it now. For what you assume, you become. And now, knowing this truth, knowing that the power is within you, knowing that your consciousness creates your reality, go forth and be what you desire to be. For in this knowing lies your freedom, and in this freedom lies your power. Test it, prove it, live it. For this is the law, and this is the way. Good night. I wish to share with you the most profound truth about happiness, a truth so simple yet so revolutionary that it will transform your entire existence once you truly grasp it. Happiness is not something to be pursued. It is not something to be found. Happiness is a state of consciousness, and consciousness is the only reality. Let me tell you why this understanding is so crucial to your life. Every single thing you experience, every emotion you feel, every circumstance you encounter originates first in your consciousness. Your mind is not merely a recorder of events, it is the creator of all that you experience. When I tell you I can do it, you can do it, we can do it, I am not speaking of mere positive thinking. I am revealing to you the very law by which the universe operates. For in consciousness, in your wonderful human imagination, there is no limitation, no boundary, no impossibility. Consider this profound truth right now. In this very moment, you are choosing your state of consciousness. You are selecting the feeling that dominates your being. And that feeling, that state of consciousness, must externalize itself in your world. For this is law. I tell you from my own experience, and from witnessing countless transformations in others, that when you truly understand that happiness is a choice of consciousness, your entire world transforms. For what you feel with conviction in consciousness must objectify itself in your world. Let me share with you what I mean when I say, I can do it. When I make this statement, I am not speaking from a place of hoping or wishing. I am speaking from a state of knowing. For in consciousness, I have already done it. In consciousness, I have already achieved it. In consciousness, I am already experiencing it. You see, the outer world is nothing more than your inner world objectified. Everything you now see and experience was first only imagined. Therefore, when you say, I can do it, You are not making a statement about future possibility. You are declaring a present reality in consciousness. Think of it this way. When you say you can do it, you are acknowledging the divine power within another. You are recognizing that they too are God in expression, temporarily wearing the mask of humanity. For there is only one consciousness, one God, one I am, expressing itself through all. And when we declare together we can do it, we are acknowledging the ultimate truth, that we are all one consciousness, one divine being, expressing itself through seemingly separate forms. In this understanding lies the secret of true happiness, true achievement, true fulfillment. Let me tell you something about happiness that few understand. Happiness is not dependent on external circumstances. It is not the result of what happens to you. Happiness is a choice you make in consciousness, and that choice shapes everything that follows. I remember a lady who came to me in deep despair. Her circumstances were dire, her future seemed bleak, and she could see no reason for happiness. I told her something that transformed her life. Your consciousness is the only reality. Choose now to enter the state of happiness, regardless of circumstances, and watch as your entire world reshapes itself to match your new state. She did this faithfully, and within weeks, her entire world transformed. Not because external circumstances changed first, but because she changed her state of consciousness first. For this is the law, the outer must conform to the inner. When you say, I can do it, you must feel the truth of it in your consciousness. Feel the confidence, feel the certainty, feel the natural knowing that comes with true ability. For feeling is the secret, and what you feel with conviction must externalize itself in your world. Consider what happens when you truly understand that happiness is not something to pursue, but a state to assume. In your imagination, which is your real being, you can in one moment shift from despair to delight, from limitation to boundless possibility. This is not fantasy. This is the law of consciousness in operation. When you declare, I can do it, you must understand that you are not speaking to some future possibility. You are claiming your present power. For in consciousness, where all creation takes place, there is no time. The future you desire exists now in your imagination, waiting to be claimed through your assumption. Let me share with you a principle that will revolutionize your understanding of happiness and achievement. Your consciousness is the only reality. Therefore, when you assume the feeling of happiness, when you live from the state of I can do it, you are creating the only place where creation can occur. Think about this. Every great achievement in human history began with someone saying, I can do it. But they didn't just say it with their lips, they felt it with their whole being. They lived from that state of consciousness until it became their reality. This is the secret that all great achievers have known. When you say you can do it to another, you are actually acknowledging the divine power within them. You are recognizing that they too are God in expression. For there is only one consciousness, one God, expressing itself through all of humanity. Your recognition of their power helps to awaken it within them. And when we join together in declaring we can do it, we are acknowledging the ultimate truth, that we are all one consciousness, temporarily wearing different masks. In this understanding lies the secret of true cooperation, true achievement, true happiness. Let me tell you something about the nature of happiness that few understand. Happiness is not a response to events. It is a choice of consciousness that determines how events will unfold. When you choose to live from the state of happiness, the entire universe must rearrange itself to match your assumption. I remember a young man who came to me frustrated with his inability to achieve his goals. He had tried everything, he said, but nothing seemed to work. I told him, stop trying to achieve and start assuming the feeling of the achievement. Live from the end. Feel the happiness of accomplishment now. He looked at me puzzled and asked, but how can I feel happy about something that hasn't happened? I replied, your outer world is merely your inner world objectified. What you establish in consciousness today must manifest in your world tomorrow. This is law. You see, when you say, I can do it, while feeling defeated, you are contradicting yourself in consciousness. But when you assume the feeling of already having done it, when you live from that state of accomplishment, You are creating in the only place where creation can occur, in consciousness. Let me share with you a secret about the phrase, "you can do it." When you say this to another, you must say it from the consciousness of already seeing them successful. Feel the joy of their achievement. Feel the naturalness of their success. For in consciousness, where all things exist, you are helping to awaken their own divine power. And when we declare we can do it, we are entering into the highest form of creative activity. For in that declaration, properly felt and understood, we are acknowledging our oneness with all creation. We are recognizing that what benefits one benefits all, for we are all one consciousness. Think of happiness not as something to achieve, but as something to accept now. In your imagination, which is your real being, you can this very moment accept the feeling of happiness, regardless of circumstances. And what you accept in consciousness must manifest in your world. Let me tell you of a principle that never fails. The intensity of your feeling determines the speed of its manifestation. When you declare, "I can do it," you must feel it with your whole being. Feel the confidence. Feel the certainty. Feel the natural knowing that comes with true ability. Consider this eternal truth about the power you hold within your own being. When you truly grasp that happiness is your natural state, that achievement is your divine right, you begin to operate from an entirely new level of consciousness. For consciousness is the only reality, and what you establish there must manifest in your world. Let me tell you why the statement, "I can do it," holds such power when properly understood. It is not merely a positive affirmation. It is a declaration of your true nature. For you are God in expression, temporarily wearing the mask of humanity, and to God all things are possible. Think about this. Every time you say, "I can't," you are denying your divine nature. You are choosing to live in a state of consciousness that must by law manifest limitation in your world. But when you declare, "I can do it," and feel the truth of it, you are aligning with your true power. I remember a man who came to me burdened by years of failure. He had convinced himself that happiness and success were for others, not for him. I told him something that changed his life forever. The you that you think you are did not create the world. The you that you really are did create it. You see, when you say you can do it to another, you are speaking to their divine nature, not to their limited human concept of self. You are addressing the God within them, the same God that is within you. For there is only one God, one consciousness expressing itself through all. And when we join together in the understanding of we can do it, we are acknowledging the highest truth, that we are all one being, one consciousness, having multiple experiences. In this recognition lies the secret of true power, true achievement, true happiness. Let me share with you a profound truth about happiness that few understand. Happiness is not something that happens to you. It is something that happens from you. It is a state of consciousness that you choose to occupy. And once chosen with conviction, it must externalize itself in your world. Think of it this way. Every moment of your life, you are selecting a state of consciousness. Every feeling you entertain, every assumption you accept as true, is creating your future. Therefore, when you choose the state of happiness, when you live from the consciousness of "I can do it," you are literally creating your tomorrow. I tell you from experience that this law is unfailing. What you feel with conviction in consciousness must objectify itself in your world. This is not theory. This is law. Just as gravity operates without your belief or disbelief, this law of consciousness operates whether you understand it or not. Consider the power that lies within the statement, "You can do it." When you say this to another, truly feeling the truth of it, you are helping to awaken the God within them. You are calling forth their divine nature, their unlimited potential, their true being. And when we declare together we can do it, we are entering into the highest form of creative activity. We are acknowledging our oneness with all creation, our unity with the divine, our inseparable connection with infinite possibility. Let me tell you something about achievement that will transform your understanding forever. Achievement is not something you work towards, it is something you accept in consciousness now. For in consciousness, where all creation takes place, there is no time, The future you desire exists now, waiting to be claimed through your assumption. Think of what I am telling you now. Every moment of frustration, every moment of doubt, every moment of fear is simply a misuse of your imagination. For your imagination, your consciousness, is the very substance from which all reality springs. When you say, I can do it, you are not making a prediction, you are making a decision in consciousness. Let me share with you a principle that has transformed countless lives. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the secret of creation. When you feel happy now, when you feel successful now, when you feel capable now, you are creating from the only place where creation is possible, in consciousness. I remember a woman who claimed that happiness always eluded her. She was constantly pursuing it, constantly seeking it in external circumstances. I told her, stop pursuing happiness and start assuming it. For happiness, like every other state, exists now in your consciousness, waiting to be claimed. You see, when you truly understand that you can do it, that others can do it, that we collectively can do it, you are operating from the highest spiritual law. For in consciousness there is no separation. What you claim for yourself, you claim for all. And what you claim for all, you claim for yourself. Consider this. Every time you entertain a thought of limitation, every time you attain your idea of I can't, you are denying your divine nature. For the I am within you, which is God himself, knows no limitation. To this infinite being that you really are, all things are possible. Let me tell you something about the power of collective consciousness. When we declare we can do it, we are not merely expressing optimism, we are entering into a spiritual agreement. We are recognizing our oneness with all creation, our unity with the divine, our inseparable connection with infinite possibility. Think about the phrase, you can do it, in a new way. When you say this to another, you are speaking to the God within them. You are acknowledging their divine nature, their unlimited potential, their true being. And in doing so, you help to awaken this realization within them. I tell you now, with absolute certainty, that happiness is not something to be pursued, but something to be assumed. It is not something to be found, but something to be expressed. For happiness, like all states of consciousness, exists now within you, waiting to be claimed. Consider how different your life would be if you truly understood that you could do anything, not from a place of human effort or striving, but from a place of divine knowing. For when you say, I can do it, from this place of understanding, you are speaking with the voice of God himself. Let me share with you a secret about manifestation that you understand. The outer world is nothing more than your inner world objectified. Therefore, when you maintain the consciousness of I can do it, when you live from the state of happiness now, your entire world must reshape itself to match your assumption. Think of the power that lies within your consciousness. In it, you can traverse 1,000,000 years in a second. In it, you can experience the end before the beginning. In it, you can be, do, or have anything you desire. For consciousness is the only reality. And what you establish there must externalize itself in your world. And when you say we can do it, you are acknowledging the ultimate truth that we are all one consciousness, one divine being, expressing itself through seemingly separate forms. In this understanding lies the secret of true cooperation, true achievement, true happiness. Let me tell you what happens in consciousness when you truly accept that you can do it. In that moment of acceptance, the entire universe begins to rearrange itself to match your assumption. For consciousness is the only reality, and what you accept as true in consciousness must manifest in your world. Think about this divine principle. When you declare, I can do it, from a place of knowing, not hoping, you are exercising your divine creative power. You are operating not as a mere human being, but as the God you truly are. For there is only one God, one consciousness, expressing itself through all. I want you to grasp this fundamental truth about happiness. It is not a destination to reach, but a decision to make in consciousness. When you understand this, you will stop seeking happiness and start expressing it. For what you express in consciousness must objectify itself in your world. Consider what happens when you say you can do it to another. You are not merely offering encouragement. You are recognizing the God within them. You are speaking to their divine nature, their unlimited potential, their true being. And in that recognition, you help to awaken their own divine power. Let me share with you a principle that never fails. The intensity of your assumption determines the speed of its manifestation. When you live from the state of I can do it, when you maintain the consciousness of happiness now, you are creating with the very substance of God. I remember a man who came to me, defeated by life's circumstances. He had tried everything, he said, to find happiness and success. I told him, stop trying to find what already exists within you. Your consciousness is the only reality. Live from the end, and the end will become your reality. You see, when we join together in declaring we can do it, we are entering into the highest spiritual agreement. We are acknowledging our oneness with all creation, our unity with the divine, our inseparable connection with infinite possibility. Think of it this way. Every achievement in human history began with someone assuming the state of I can do it. They didn't achieve first and then believe. They believed first and then achieved. For this is the law of consciousness. What you accept as true in consciousness must externalize itself. Let me tell you something about the nature of possibility that few understand. In consciousness, there is no such thing as impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. When you truly grasp this, when you live from this understanding, you enter into your divine inheritance as a created being. Consider the power that lies within your own wonderful human imagination. In it, you can experience the end before the beginning. In it, you can be, do, or have anything you desire. For imagination is God in action, and to imagine is to create. When you say, I can do it, you must feel the truth of it in every fiber of your being. Feel the confidence, feel the certainty, feel the natural knowing that comes with true ability. For feeling is the secret. And what you feel with conviction must externalize itself in your world. And when you declare you can do it to another, you must do so from the consciousness of already seeing them successful. Feel the joy of their achievement. Feel the naturalness of their success. For in consciousness, where all things exist, you are helping to awaken their own divine power. Let me share with you the final and most crucial truth about happiness and achievement. When you feel the reality of I can do it so intensely that your whole being vibrates with its truth, you have planted a seed in the fertile soil of infinite possibility that must come to harvest. Do you know why most people fail to find happiness, fail to achieve their desires? They treat their imaginal acts as something unreal, something separate from life itself. But I tell you now, your imaginal acts are more real than the world you see around you, for they are the very substance from which all reality springs. Think of this eternal truth. Every invention, every discovery, every achievement in human history began in someone's imagination. Everything that now exists in your world was once only imagined. Therefore, what you imagine with feeling has a divine right to manifest, for this is the way of creation itself. I tell you with absolute certainty that if you will faithfully apply this law, if you will maintain the consciousness of I can do it, if you will live from the state of happiness now, your whole world must reshape itself to match your assumption. This is not hope, this is law. Remember these final words I share with you tonight. You are not some tiny being struggling against the world. You are the operant power. You are the creator of your reality. Your consciousness, properly directed, contains within it the power to reshape universes. When you declare we can do it, understand that you are speaking with the voice of the divine itself. For in consciousness, there is no separation. What you claim for yourself, you claim for all. And what you claim for all, you claim for yourself. Tonight, when you leave this place, do so with the knowledge that you are entering into the most holy of holies, your own consciousness. Feel the reality of your desires with such intensity that the physical world seems pale in comparison to what you have established in consciousness. For in consciousness properly directed, even the impossible must yield to your assumption. The whole vast world will conspire to make your assumption a reality. For this is the eternal law of consciousness. What you feel as real in consciousness must externalize itself in your world. I leave you with this final truth. The power is within you. The kingdom is within you. Your consciousness used with understanding and feeling is more powerful than 1,000 years of toil. For in consciousness you are exercising your divine right as a created being. Go forth now with this knowledge. Apply this law. Test it. Prove it in the laboratory of your own life. For I tell you with absolute authority that even the impossible will manifest when you understand and apply the power of your own wonderful human imagination. Let this be your practice from this moment forward. Live from the state of I can do it. Maintain the consciousness of happiness. Feel the reality of your desires fulfilled. For when you do this, you are doing the work you were created to do. You are consciously creating your reality. Remember, the world is yourself pushed out. Therefore, in consciousness, you are literally realigning the entire universe according to rest. There is no power outside of you that can withstand what you establish in consciousness. For consciousness is the only reality, and you are that consciousness. And now, knowing this truth, understanding this law, go forth and create the life you desire. For you hold within you the power to manifest even the impossible. This is the truth. This is the law. This is your divine inheritance. The end is where we begin. The completion is where we start. Therefore, live from the end, dwelling in the assumption that your desires are already fulfilled. For when you do this, you are operating in accordance with the highest law of creation, and nothing can prevent your assumption from becoming your reality. So I say to you, finally take this knowledge, use it wisely, fill your consciousness with the feeling of your wishes fulfilled, and watch as the whole vast world reshapes itself to match what you have established in consciousness. For this is the way of creation, this is the law of assumption, and this is your power as a divine created being.